What up guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here today and I'm back with another video. Now today's video I want to talk about the difference between alternate timelines and parallel universes and why they do have some similarities but they are different in different means. Though I'm not a scientist myself, I do love science. I know quite a bit of science, but there's just some parts I don't know. I would have to ask, a physicist or a quantum physicist or, somebody that knows more about astronomy than me to talk about something like this. But I will go into this in depth as much as possible as I can. Now, before I get into this, I do want to talk about the fact that in my newer videos, if you haven't seen my last video, I will be putting, gameplay for videos like this. The only time I will be showing my face now for my videos is if I'm doing, a reaction video. If I'm watching somebody else's video and I'm talking about it, then I'll show my face. But for my regular videos like this where I have a discussion video, I'm just going to be putting up gameplay, so enjoy watching my terrible gameplay and me sucking at all these games. So for this game you're going to be watching Naruto Ninja Storm 4 if you guys are wondering what it is. Why did I make this video? I made this video because of a response from T-Sizzle, one of my YouTube friends. He basically messaged me on, it was a while back, but he stated on I think it was my first video where I talked about the Dragon Ball cosmology and why the Dragon Ball universes aren't actually a multiverse, and I explained the difference between the way that Dragon Ball handled their universes compared to a multiverse with parallel worlds. And one of his argument was, he did message me and stated in there, and it was an interesting statement. He stated, well, they have alternate timelines, like in Trunks' timeline. Wouldn't that be considered, a parallel universe, technically making that a multiverse? And he does have a decent argument there, but if you understand science a little more, you know that it's a little more complex than that and it can be a little confusing at times. So I want to explain to them the best of my ability. So the difference between, alternate timelines and parallel universes is the fact that the way parallel universes work based off of multiverse theory. Now, multiverse theory suggests that there's an infinite amount of, parallel worlds. And the way it works is every decision that we make and don't make creates another universe, and this creation of this other universe has different avenues that we go through in our lives and different events that happen, thus creating different parallel worlds where there could be different changes. There can be a female version of you if you're a man, or a male version of you if you're a female. There could be, you be a rich version of you. There could be a timeline where you died when you're young. There could be a timeline when you weren't born, So there's all these other stuff that through our decisions they make these different parallel worlds, and that can kind of seem like messing with time, but that's basically the gist of multiverse theory. And that's one of the reasons I don't agree with it, because I don't think our actions have that much of of an effect or consequences that we can create other sets of universes that have these significant changes by just a decision of ours. I don't think we have that much power. Throughout science, we're told that our existence throughout this entire universe is very abysmal, and now we're being told that we have such a significant role that we can create other realities. It's just nonsensical to me. But when you look in works of fiction, some go by that definition, but not always. Sometimes we see that, like in Marvel and DC, they kind of go in that a little bit. But a lot of times when they do have alternate realities, it isn't because somebody has a different it isn't always because somebody made a different choice. It's sometimes the writers just want to have more creativity and write, different, like, what if type of scenarios. Like, what if Superman was a Green Lantern? What if, Batman was on Krypton? This and that, It's just, like, ridiculous stories that they want to do that they can't keep with a regular continuity. Or they make some story and then time passes and they get more modernized, so they go to a different one. And that's why they do it. That's why the first reason that DC did it was the first Flash they had was Jay Garrick Flash, and the old Superman, and they felt like it was kind of getting too old, so they wanted to go a different avenue. So they created another universe. So then they had the whole storyline with Jay Garrick Flash meeting Wally West's Barry Allen's Flash, and thus showcasing the multiverse. So they have that. So it's not always through decisions. Sometimes they just have other parallel universes like that. But the way that alternate timelines work, especially like in Dragon Ball, which a lot of fictional universes don't even go by that. A lot of times in other fictional universes, when they have characters messing with time, it doesn't create another timeline. It's simply what's the thing called? It it just changes that timeline. Like, let's say you go back in the past, you change something, then it will change the future of the timeline and then make it go in a different direction. So that's what happens in that, especially in DC. When Flash goes back in time, the reason Barry Allen doesn't try to go back in time too much is when he messes with time in the past, it changes the entire timeline and can really ruin it. Unless if it's like, Eobard Flash, which he has the ability to not only go back in time without using, the cosmic treadmill, but he can also, alter reality without it having an effect, which I don't know why. I know later on he becomes a paradox, so it makes more sense then, but he hadn't been a paradox for a long time in his, career, so it made no sense for that. But yeah, a lot of people get this misconstrued with multiverse theory. Even if you watch Team 4-Star, they had the part where, Trunks is explaining that, oh, this might create a branch universe, and then Gohan says, that's multiverse theory. And no, it's not. Multiverse theory is not through that means. It's just through an action. Now, what's the significant difference? Well, to create an alternate timeline, they might sound similar because if you look at an alternate timeline, especially through Dragon Ball, the way it works is through messing with time, it creates a branch of another timeline where the events transpire in a different means, though they have similar stuff. So this leads people to believe that, whoa, this would mean that it's the same, right? But the problem with that is the only changes that will happen is whatever changes you made to going back in the past. No changes will happen by your decisions of doing or not doing as a normal person. But if it's a person who's going back in time doing it, then yes, there's a change happening. But you're not going to find a doppelganger of... If you go to these other alternate timelines, you're not going to find a doppelganger of Goku that is, a female or, rich or whatever. You will find versions that might be dead. Like, Trunks' timeline, he died from the heart virus. Whereas in the main timeline, he survived because he gave him, the medication. But the clear-cut difference for me is when it comes to, multiverse theory, is the fact that it's through our own decisions. We don't have to do anything drastic. We don't have to mess with time or manipulate time. Basically, it's through our own, decisions. And most other fictions is just because, they want to have alternate timelines and stuff, or alternate universes that have, different events, so they can have a more interesting story throughout different comic books. But in, when it comes to alternate timelines, especially through Dragon Ball, the only way you can create other, realities and stuff is through manipulating time itself. You can't do it through your actions. You have to literally affect time by time traveling. And this is not by using techniques like Goldo's or, Hit's technique. You have to do it through a machine that goes back in time and stuff. But when it goes back in time, it branches off another timeline and goes to that one. That is the clear-cut difference that I see with alternate timelines and, multiverses or, parallel universes. Because the parallel universes, throughout, normal scientific means, not taking, fictional's way that they do in fiction. The way we see in multiverse theory, what is explained is through our actions it changes. We don't have to mess with time. There's no need to go through timelines or creating a time machine to do it. Just our natural decisions create these other universes, and it has an infinite possibilities because there's infinite possibilities of different things we can do, right? But when it comes to an alternate timeline, the only way you can create these other parallel worlds or make these other branches off is if you directly mess with time by making a time machine going back in time or forward in time, thus creating branches off to other timelines. That's the only time you can do it, and it's due to a specific person or persons that go through time that are affecting it, not that other person themselves. And whatever effects it has no effect on that original timeline. That is more to do with time, where the other one has more to do with just dimensions as a whole. And yes, it could blend in and they have a lot of similarities, but there are some clear-cut differences between it, like I said. In the alternate timelines, you have to directly mess with time, and it's only a set number. And unlike the multiverse theory, where it's an infinite possibility of realities through our own decisions, an alternate timeline will be limited to how many times you mess through time. If you look through Dragon Ball Super, it showcased that every time somebody messed with time, there was a new time ring that came out. And though there was a lot, there's still a finite amount of it. And as long as somebody doesn't time travel or gets stopped, like by Zeno, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's a crime to travel through time. But as long as it's prevented, there won't be other realities out there. Whereas with multiverse theory, it's just a natural cause that will normally happen. You just making any decision would create all these, parallel realms. So it's like that one you can't stop, and that one have an infinite amount. The other one will have a finite level, and it might increase, but that's only if somebody's messing with time. If they're not, then the timelines will stay the way they are. So there's that, and the doppelgangers. Whereas in the alternate realities, or I call it alternate realities, but parallel realities, those ones have doppelgangers of them. When you have an alternate timeline, that's not a doppelganger. More like that's not a normal doppelganger. That's more like a time doppelganger. That's a time anomaly or whatever. That's more like a doppelganger through time, whereas the other one is just an actual doppelganger. And like I said, the changes won't be like in a multiverse. Multiverse, there will be any change could any change could happen. That universe can have different rules altogether. Whereas through the other timeline, they will all have the same rules. They'll all have mostly the same things, unless the effects that are changed throughout time are significant. But yeah, there's just a few things right there for the clear-cut difference. I know it's still quite confusing. Personally, I don't know enough about this. I would really love to ask, an astrophysicist or a quantum mechanics major or somebody like that, somebody who is a top-level intellectual. I would like to have a discussion about the differences. But from what I know, this is the clear-cut differences that I have. So for T-Sizzle, my response is, alternate timelines is changed through the amount of you affecting time itself. It will only be limited to how many people change through time. What events they change in time will be changed. And you don't have doppelgangers. It's just, your alternate timeline version of yourself. Whereas, multiverse, it is changed by your decisions. You don't need to mess with time. It would have an infinite amount, and you will have doppelgangers of yourself that can be completely different and have realms that have different rules and laws to it. Whereas in alternate timelines, they'll have the same laws. It will just be the same laws, just that time will be in a different fluctuation comparing to it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this video was very informative for you guys. Hopefully some of you guys weren't too confused about it. I know I got a little bit confusing with going back and forth and stuff, but this is the best way I could explain this type of subject without it being too intricate. And like I said, I don't know enough about this to be definitively like I'm a genius and I know everything about this because I'm smart. I don't know enough. If you guys do have knowledge of it, give me your knowledge. If you guys know anybody, refer them to this video to them, so I can have a discussion with them about the differences and stuff, because I do love topics of science. And if you guys want more videos on scientific discussions on Dragon Ball characters or the reality of Dragon Ball, or have any questions of it, I'll definitely make video responses for you guys, so you guys can get a little bit more of a understanding from my point. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoy this new style of video making where I have gameplay instead of just showing my face. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and stay tuned for next time.